Hey guys, what's going on? Jas here with Simeon. Simos is up at Mississauga at our West office. I'm here in our Toronto office at Shops at Don Mills. What's going on, my man?
Good morning, my man. Nice choice of shirt today. Must be new.
What are you doing there? You got an REC shirt? Is that a blue one too?
I sure do.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I got the blue
Minds
on
think
today
alike,
too.
bro. And you have a
Not
great
that,
mind.
not that I'm feeling blue by any means, but I just kind of was feeling the shirt more than anything else.
We'll go with my jeans.
So we're going to be talking about really the process today, Simos, that a landlord should go through when they're A, trying to look for a tenant, B, when they actually find a tenant, some of the qualification process, and then things that you and I advise our clients to do all the time, like little tips that a landlord should really take on when it comes to finding a tenant. Like, we help our landlords. We have a team of 30 realtors right across the greater Toronto area that can take this on for a landlord, for a small fee of 1 month's rent. But you and I are always on the same tip, right, buddy, that we don't mind giving away all the information, because you really can find a tenant yourself. It's not rocket science by any means.
And the people who pay us to do it or pay anyone to do it are simply busy people that find that there's value in having a pro do it. But at the end of the day, if you have the time to do it yourself, why not save that money? As far as from a professional standpoint, we follow a process. This specific item, like screening tenants, does not require expert negotiation. It requires not skipping your steps. So this is one point, in my opinion, that any landlord can save, whether they want to save that month's rent or not, depending on the value of their time, of course. But if they want to save the step, this is one that after this little shot, this webinar, you're going to be able to do like a pro.
So just as a case study, we just went through it for one of our clients' condos in downtown Toronto on the east part, kind of in the Distillery District for our viewers and listeners in the Toronto area. We were renting out a one-bedroom, 550 square foot condo. We ended up renting it out for right under $2,300 a month, no parking, right in that $2,300 kind of dollars a month range. Let's talk about kind of what we would always advise. So if there's someone listening and watching, and you're thinking about renting out your place, it really is like very similar right across not only the city province, but really right across the country. Where should somebody start? We're talking residential. Let's keep our conversation to residential, because obviously on a commercial one, you and I will do another insight in the future, because you handling majority of the commercial leases for our clients, it's a totally different process. So from a residential perspective, Simos, where does one start? Where should they start?
So I think it typically starts with the way you put up your ads. And I do want to do something separate for marketing your rental. But once you have your ad up, it all begins with what you requested for in your ad. So any ad, at the bottom of the ad, it should obviously have the pictures of the property and a nice sequence describing what the property is.
And Simos, high-res pictures, right? Like, I know a lot of our smartphones now, like you and I are, like I'm doing this from my smartphone. Pictures are high quality, but not all phones give you high quality pictures. Don't cheap out at this time. Like, even if you have to hire a professional photographer to take some pictures, it literally would cost you maybe $75 for some high quality pictures.
That's right. And then you have them on record for the next time you need to use them. It's not like you're going to drastically change your place. Make sure that it's painted neutral. Get your pictures done once and have them locked in. But as far as screening your tenant, which I want to be the focus of today, make sure that your ad has the tenant requirements. That the tenant will be subject to a credit check. They will need to provide their employer information. They will need to provide their personal references. They will need to show their financial prowess in order to qualify for the condo. So bank statements, employment, income, credit check, and previous history is going to be required. Not maybe, 100%.
And now when we're looking at, and in terms of the credit check, Simos, I mean, when we're looking at a credit report, essentially from Equifax or TransUnion are the most common ones, it's not only just the score, right? The credit score tells us kind of an overall 30,000-foot view of the applicant's payment history, and do they actually make payments. But we actually want to make sure we drill into almost every credit line. What do they have available?
100%. You also see their habits. So if you see that they're 23 years old, they make $40,000 a year, and they're driving a BMW 5 Series, you might have someone on your hands that's not the most responsible. So, do their choices in life reflect their income and what you're looking for in a tenant? Not that we're here to judge anyone. I don't care what anybody does. I care what I put in my home, though.
And when we're from a lender's perspective as well, if they have a line of credit or a credit card, and let's just say their available credit, or sorry, like the limit on their credit card is $10,000, a lender, and we as landlords should be looking at it from the same perspective. It's if they have a balance of 5,000 and above, so 50%. If their balance is 50% or above, that's something that we want to make sure we watch out for, right? Especially if they have 4 credit cards, all have limits of 10,000, and they have all these balances on it. We want to make sure that if they spent right to the limit of these credit cards, will they still be able to even afford rent?
That's right. So what a lender does actually, so when you apply for credit, there's 2 different things on your credit report. There's institutional debt and there's revolving debt. Institutional debt is your student loan. Institutional debt is your car loan. It's a loan, not a revolving line of credit. A Visa, MasterCard line of credit are revolving items, meaning that you can pay it back and use that credit over and over again. Now, when assessing someone, you do need to assess them as if their revolving line is at its limit, and do they still have the ability to repay or pay their rent in this case?
Based on their annual income, divide that by 12, so we get their monthly income. And now we're looking at exactly, can they make the payments if they went, like you made mention to, if they went right to the limit, can they make the payments on all their credit as well as rent?
That's right. And basically what you're looking for, especially again, we're going to talk about Toronto, you don't want your tenant to have to spend more than 40% of their net income on rent. At that point, they're really going to struggle, and it's not going to be a good symbiotic relationship for him and you in the same place. You're not going to be able to live well together knowing that one is always under the knife to make his rent payment. Why would you do that? Pick someone who can afford it.
Now, with that said, especially with rents going where they are in the city of Toronto, we are starting to see closer to that 50%. Not to say that, if they're paying all, and if their history is that they've always made payments, even if, and correct me if I'm wrong or disagree with me, Simos, even if they're up to that 50%, I don't think that's that bad, right? Especially where rent prices are now and rent values are in our city.
It's not bad, Jas, and we do it all the time. We do it for our own units. We do it for our clients' units. But you really take an overall encompassing picture. So a guy who's going to be spending 50% of his net money on rent, I'm going to actually interview him and ask him that. I'm going to say, hey, bro, you're making $4,500 a month. Your rent's $2,200. How do you feel that half your money is going to rent? Are you planning on staying at your job? Do you know that you're getting a promotion coming up? How are you comfortable with spending 50% of your money on rent?
Great questions. Definitely. And don't be afraid, just on a side note, don't be afraid to interview and call the tenant. They're going to be living in your place. You're going to give them access to your place, right? And so now is the time. And I'm so glad that you made mention of the questions, because now is the time to ask those questions, not when they moved in.
Correct. So I'll give you another example. So the example you mentioned at the distillery was one thing. Nice, simple tenancy. And we have typically our agents who are working them, they do this many times a year, hundreds of times per year. We just had the vacancy at Pembrokefield. Pembroke is an 8-plex. We have 1 3-bedroom unit in the basement that's converted. It's pretty much a student rental. It has been rented to students. Its proximity to Ryerson makes it a excuse me. It makes it a prize, excuse me. So once again, it's August. Students, sure enough, knock on the door.
Yeah, this is the time definitely that you're going to get students, and don't shy away from students, right? Because
I'll go over that. So we just had 3 students approach. They all know each other. Two of them, I believe, from the U.S., one of them from here. They're friends in year one. Year two, they banded together to tackle obviously the ever-increasing amount in rent. The unit rented for $3,195, so $3,200. So it's a huge win for our investors and us because we're part of that joint venture. But more importantly, the way it was done, we had Rosany do the deal. And Rosany screened well over 30 tenants for it. A lot of people wanted it and could afford it. It's right downtown. It eliminates your need to have a car. It eliminates your need for many things. And it's in that Ryerson corridor. So you have access, obviously, to many places of worship, restaurants, trainings. Most of the campuses for Ryerson are within like legit 10-minute walk, not a 10-minute bus ride, not transit, not this 10-minute walk. So it's so.
That's why it's so important. It's so important that when you, as an investor, when you're looking at it, I know we're going off on a little bit of a tangent, but why location is so important because she had 30, and not over a long period of time, right? She put it up and she had 30 applicants.
Remember, this unit was leased at $2,200 a year and a half ago. So we're talking about a 35% increase getting to market rent. Of course, it was below market, but we got it to market rent and actually at the top of market rent at this point in just 2 tenancies. So we went to $2,800 and now we're at $3,195, leading the marketplace in that space with some of the highest rent for our investors. And of course, we were able to put it to present it in a way where it actually doesn't hurt the tenant. Now you have 3 different pockets covering that $3,100. For each tenant at Ryerson to pay $1,100 or less per month in rent is unheard of. They're paying $1,500 to $1,800 a door in dorms, and that is not cushy living by any means. So this is a huge win for the tenants and a tremendous win for the housing provider, which is ourselves.
Now let's go back to what, in that case, what Rosany would have done and what you and I would have overwatched so our viewers can kind of get an idea when they're doing it for themselves. We obviously checked their credit. We had a rental application filled out by them, which tells us a lot of stuff in terms of how much they make, where they work, previous landlords. So let's talk a little bit more about.
Let's talk about that because it's huge. Not only did we pull their credit, in this case, their student, we pulled their parents' credit. And so we're talking about six reports at $20 a piece, $120. There's people out there that won't pull a credit report for the tenant because they don't want to spend $20. Well, let me tell you how out to lunch you possibly are. You can put a monster in your place and not know it. You can have any number of crises diverted just by looking into someone's credit and look at how they behave over time with their finances. So that's number one. So we pulled all the students and we pulled all the parents or their guarantor. Next step is we actually got all their employment information, if any, and all their parents' employment information. We spoke to the parents on the telephone. Is Jas Takhar your son? Is Jas Takhar your son, or is this a random person? Where do you live? Let me confirm. Let me see this. We pull up their social profiles. So first of all, you confirm the person. You confirm that they're a student at Ryerson. Are they lying? You confirm their parents. Are they working? Are you comfortable in paying $1,100? What is your situation? You ask questions. Nobody tells you what you can and cannot ask. Ask what you're comfortable with.
It's your place.
It's your place. So now you have 6 people guaranteeing the rent. That's first off. So we got the employment history, we got personal references and business references. Where did you live before, sweetheart? I was at Res. Give me the property manager for the residence. Oh, I was at a condo. Who owned that condo? Let me speak to them. Oh, they said they're going to sell it. Okay, well, I'm a realtor. I can check the MLS. Did it actually sell?
And not only that, the address that they give on that rental application, near the top of the rental application, is the previous or present address of the landlord where they're renting from now. It's very easy to check land registry to see if Joe Blow actually owns that property. Is Joe Blow their drinking buddy, right? And so we want to make sure that we cover ourselves as much as we possibly can. You mentioned socials, right? We always tell our clients that it's so important to check out the Facebooks and the Instagram. Not that there's anything wrong with having pets, and you as a landlord might have pets and you're okay with pets. It's just that if they tell you they don't have pets, and then you check their Instagram profile, and there's a picture
snuggling with a 60-pound dog all day.
Every other pictures with a 60-pound dog. We want to know that up front, and it's very easy. You search their Instagram, search their Facebook. Very, very easy to do.
And really,
right?
it's not a big deal. Like people make a big deal out of pets. Pets are not a big deal. Owners are.
I have one of my
big deal.
Yes, I agree. I have one of my units that is in King West, backs onto Stanley Park. 15 Stafford is the building. Owned it for almost a decade now, and it's actually catered and targeted more for pet owners because there's a big dog park right behind me. And I've had 5 tenants, all with pets. This building has no restrictions on the size, so there is some 60 and 80-pound dogs. And the guys have been awesome. And I'm not a pet owner myself, but I remember talking to you and you telling me exactly what you said. It's not the pets, it's the owner. But
100%.
Different insight for a different day.
Well, most people who do own pets enjoy the responsibility of owning a pet. So
I agree.
It's not like it was put on them. They chose to be a pet owner. They love taking care of this animal, and the animal is again a creature of habit. If there is an owner who neglects their pet and the pet has to have the behavior or anxiety and all these things that happen in pets, yeah, sure. Sometimes it's a pain, but it's 90% owner and it's 90% good most of the time. In this case, again, social will tell you it's the age of social media. If somebody's moving, they're going to post about it. If somebody is going through jobs, they're going to post about it. That's all people do, actually. In many cases, before you even have the tenant interview and your application is in, I would run a LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook search. Like with younger tenants, Facebook is almost a waste of time, but LinkedIn and Instagram are huge.
Twitter.
And people post stories like minute by minute of their lives. Like you can see what they had for breakfast, see where they hung out, see where they partied on the weekend, see what time they got home on the weekend. Like,
hey, look, I'm not a spring chicken myself anymore, some would say, but I still post on my stories on a regular basis, and it would tell it'll tell a lot about my daily habits and stuff and so on and so forth. So we've now got a rental application done. We've checked their credit. We've checked their socials. And essentially now and we've made all the reference calls. Very important to make mention of, we've called where they're working or their school if they're a student. We've called their past landlords to kind of get a sense of it. Now it's time for the lease agreement and time to draft up the lease agreement. What lease agreement is everyone going to be using in Ontario?
So if we're talking Ontario did regulate their lease agreement. We have a standard form. We're always going to use that. In our case, we're so fortunate to be working with some of the leading lawyers in the province and in the country. Mark Weisletter, I'll give a big up to him. He supplied us with every single one of his clauses that he's drafted to complement and are legal to add to the Ontario lease. So it's not a matter of you cannot change the Ontario lease. That is your founding document. That's your foundation. You start with the Ontario lease and you add clauses thereon. If you just start scribbling crap on the Ontario lease, no, it's not effective and legal. But if you have a lawyer look at it and give you the clauses that you want to add that are going to be above and beyond the common law, yes, you can do that. You're actually encouraged to do that. And we do it for our clients every day, adding some more layers of security and protection to their best interests.
Now, once the lease agreement is drafted up, you want to make sure that you get a deposit check. That line is in the lease agreement. It's generally what we see is first and last month's rent. Make sure that, in my opinion and in our opinion, it's certified or bank draft. So we know that these guys, the tenants, have come up with the money. I personally don't advise.
You give the keys.
Exactly.
You give the keys.
Yeah, and some tips, and we'll just throw them out there because you and I see some different things, Simos. But I like to not do post-dated checks for the first couple of months because I like to go show up and collect rent and just kind of check up on the tenant, make sure everything is good. And I'm doing this from two perspectives. One, I'm doing it from a customer service perspective, see if there's anything that I can help with. I want the tenant to know that I'm local, I'm here, I live here. If they need something, I'm here to also help. But I'm also kind of checking up on the place, right? Like every couple of months for the first couple of months, right? Like I always use the analogy if Simos, even if you gave me your new car today to borrow it for the day, you would probably call me or text me every hour, and it might go something like, "Hey Jas, just checking in, everything okay with the car?" Chances are you're not asking about if I'm okay with the car. You're making sure if the car is okay.
That's right.
We give our keys to people for a year or 2 years and never check up on it. And then we wonder 2 years later why there's a grow up or they treated your place like garbage, right? Well, you never checked up on them and never checked up on your place.
I was just going to go into that. The smartest thing of checking, especially early on, I can tell you that despite our best efforts, despite how many years we've been doing this, have we been fooled before? Of course we have.
There's professional tenants out there, man. They know what they're doing.
Professional tenants, professional fraud artists. They create documents. They position people to pick up phones. No, like I am telling you, no matter what, there's going to be the one time that it happens to you, and that's okay because our business is bulletproof from the sense of that for the times that the bad stuff happens to you when you do all the right things, the chances are so slim that you're ready for it. It's paid itself off 5 million times. But let me just go back to what you were mentioning about visiting the property. If you visit the property and the first month, there's nothing in the unit, just them in a bed or whatever, that's one thing. Sure, you've been busy, whatever. Second month, third month, I can assure you something far more sinister is happening if there's nothing but a couch in there. I can assure you that it's used as storage of either illegal substances. It's a hub for drug use. It could be an address for many different things. We've seen so many. I don't want to go into the craziness that we've seen, but I mean, if you go there at 90 days and there's nothing but a couch in there, no glasses, no dishes, etc., I can assure you that your home is not being used for a primary residence to anyone, and that's something that you should look into right away. And the only way that you're going to know that is if you drop in, not just cash checks and think the world's a beautiful place.
Look, I mean, we do this and we see this almost about 300 to 400 times a year through our team and our office here at Royal LePage Signature, helping landlords rent out places. And we've been doing it coming up to 15 years. And I'm not telling you that to impress you, more to impress upon you that we can probably count on one hand the horror stories. It doesn't happen often, but this insight today was really to mitigate as much as we possibly can, because you'll never know 100%, right, Simos? And I'm sure you're gonna agree with me here is that it's getting to that 95% comfort level with somebody, because there's always that 5% chance that or 3 to 5% chance that they are frauding us, or they're going to slip one underneath us, right? It's just a matter of mitigating as much as you possibly can.
So I will tell you in summary, when screening tenants, first order of business, use a professional application. Get your consent to pull their credit report. Get their employment information, get their personal reference, get their previous landlording and tenanting history. Make sure that you verify everything that they have said to be true. If they lied on their application, they're going to lie to you about many more things. There is a massive tenant pool that you do not need to tolerate any imperfections on any of these items. Make sure that if their income to rent ratio, let's call it 50% because we are in one of the hottest markets in Canada, but make sure you do have a conversation. Maybe buy your tenant, your prospective tenant, a coffee, meet with them. Have a conversation and say, it's not, the rent is not this high because I want it to be 50% of your income. That's market rent in Toronto. Are you comfortable with pledging 50% of your income to my apartment?
Yeah, look, in terms of that, just really quickly on the credit part that you talked about, do not allow them to send you the credit report. Spend the $40, $34.95.
It's $20. It's $20.
$20. and you pull the credit. You just need the consent. You need the social insurance number, an email of them saying that, yes, I'm authorizing you and giving you the permission to pull my credit. That's good enough. And the reason is because you can easily Photoshop a credit rating and a credit report. Sorry.
And if they have a problem with that,
run.
Sorry.
Right? There's no use. As you mentioned, there's a big enough pool of tenants.
Nope.
Simeon, I think we've given everything that we could give in terms of value for this specific topic. I did want to make mention because there is a lot of people who, and now, especially in the city of Toronto, but we're seeing it right across the province and in the country, that are using, so they're somewhat sub-leasing and sub-renting out the units as Airbnbs, but yourself and Mark Wiseletter did an insight, so make sure, guys, that you go check that out as well, because there's some really the ins and outs of how to protect yourself. And as always, give us your feedback, even if you think that both of us should stop doing this. We want to hear it. Give us that feedback. Also, give us some topics when it comes to real estate. It's something that Simeon and I, it's our passion. So, I mean, we can continue to do these as much as you guys are watching them, and if you actually care.
I would like to thank everybody. I promise to not wear the same shirt as Jas next time.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for always listening. Again, your feedback is gold to us. Let us know what you think, and we hope we brought you value. Everybody, have a great, great, great day.
You take care too, brother.